Okay, so we're live. Hello, everyone. This is our new installment of Ruby Monday. My name is Mo Abdul Muhammad, and today is the 8th of December 2015. And hi, everyone.
Hey,
Okay, so I don't know what. Yeah, Kevin, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Kevin. Been trying to learn programming for a while, and yeah, I'm in Arizona in the U.S. It's 7 o'clock here. I don't know what else to introduce.
Nice. And Jesus?
okay. I guess since we have new people,
Uh-huh.
yeah, I have been programming since I was a kid. So since I was 12 years old, and I am 29 now. And Ruby, I started with Ruby in 4 years ago in 2011. And I really like Ruby. It's very the syntax, the object orientation, everything. And I am working on my blog and trying to teach what I know.
Uh-huh. Very cool. Very cool. And I'm not sure if Kylie got your mic on. No, we still can't hear you. But okay, so I'm not very different than Jesus, except that I'm a really Ruby newbie. I just started writing and learning Ruby May this year. So probably 7 months already, 7, 8 months. So 7 months, yeah. So I really liked Ruby. At the beginning, I thought it was a toy language because I come from a darker background. I came from doing C, C++, and Java. So I always thought that Ruby is a toy language. But then when I tried doing Ruby, I found that it's kind of this rabbit hole. The deeper you go, the deeper it gets. So yeah, I loved Ruby actually. Doing Ruby, I can't see myself not doing Ruby anymore. So yeah. So Kevin posed an interesting question on the Slack channel, and if I may quote your question, is there a list of simple programs I can make to learn Ruby? Excuse me. I want to learn to apply Ruby in what I have picked up. Yeah, so basically how to learn Ruby and what are good resources to learning and applying simple Ruby programs and advance your skills in Ruby. So I wonder, Jesus, how do you still remember the days when you first started writing Ruby and then advanced a little by little? Maybe you can shed some light on how did you progress?
Yeah, I started with simple programs like reading a string from the input and responding to it. Like if age is more than 20, then say something. If age is higher than 60, say something else. Things like that simple, and then starting building up.
Yeah.
And practice. Read the documentation, read many books if you can. Eloquent Ruby is a good book.
Yeah, Eloquent Ruby.
Peter Cooper also has a lesson. There you go.
Yeah, Eloquent Ruby.
Did you finish it?
Not yet, but almost halfway through. So
Okay.
I've this much. Because I find myself reading multiple books at the same time. So I'm reading Ruby, I'm reading Python, I'm reading some machine learning books. So I get stuck in my own interests somehow. It hinders me. But yes, please go on.
Yeah, so that book helped me a lot, Eloquent Ruby, just started. Practice the examples, read other people's code, and practice a lot, read blog posts about Ruby, read news, talk with other programmers like we are doing now.
Uh-huh.
And if you can teach others the things you learn, it also helps.
Yes, yes, definitely. And learning things actually is easy. Teaching them back is very tough because you have to actually understand it 100%.
Yeah.
So, do you have any citations, any specific resource from the? I know you've mentioned Eloquent Ruby. That's a really good resource for anyone coming into programming and especially into Ruby.
Mm-hmm. Well, there are a few sites if you want to practice. I like exercims.io, and there is also codewars.com.
Codewars.com, and of
Yes.
course your own personal site, right?
Yeah,
Black Bytes.
yeah, that's it. Blackbytes.info.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. So, yeah, thank you for sharing these. For myself, since I'm also a Ruby newbie, I kind of it's very hard for me to get convinced into using something right away. The way I did it personally, this was my personal experience, and I'm sure many people do this as well. You first hear about Ruby and you hear people praising the language and you're like, oh, okay, it's interesting. Let me see what I can do. So you search and you find this tutorial and I follow up on the tutorial and okay, I can print some strings. I can calculate. I can do some conditionals. Okay, that's cool. And then you keep reading more tutorials until you find yourself for me, I found myself doing Rails without actually following any formal documentation. I found myself installing Rails, building my first web application, and going through it with just following simple tutorials on the internet. And then when I started wanting to take things even further and build a more complicated Ruby/Rails app, I found myself digging deep into Stack Overflow and reading things that I don't 100% understand.
Mm-hmm.
And then I decided, no, I should take this more seriously, and I should invest time to learning the language first, Ruby, and then learning the framework after, not following any. Because I'm very project based. You see, when I want to do something, I pick a project and then try to apply it with this new technology, rather than learning the technology first and then applying projects later. So I'm kind of top down, not bottom up.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and then when I got stuck, I decided no, I have to invest some time, purchase some books, read through them, and as well, I was lucky as well to find you guys through that endeavor and join in Code Newbie.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, people. I hear people and I see people chatting a lot about these new booming websites like Code School, Treehouse, all these new solutions to e-learning, basically, and they're booming right now because there is a very high demand. People are coming from different industries and different backgrounds to programming, and they want to investigate this domain, this field. They want to try it out and see what it can offer them. And since that demand was there, lately there was this boom in all these solutions. What do you think about these, Jesus?
Well, it helps people learn, so that's good.
Yeah,
But I don't know, it seems like it's a lot of people that want to get into programming, and it's maybe not for the right reasons. Maybe I don't know what they find attractive. Is it the money? They think they will make a lot of money, or they think it's just cool. They gonna be playing with computers, or I don't know. What people coming from other professions or jobs that never done programming, what do they find attractive? What do you think they find attractive?
Well, what I know for sure that people are trying. They're trying it for many different reasons. Some, as you said, some just want to play with it, see what it can offer them, and some others are actually trying to make a living out of programming and moving from their profession into a more programming or IT profession. So I think there are multiple reasons, but ultimately I think people who are serious, they want to make money out of it. They want to learn to get a job and to start coding for a living.
Yeah, people pay like $20,000 or $15,000 for boot camps, and for a boot camp, and I don't understand that.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah,
That's
that's
high
true.
amount of money.
That's true. Also, I think one major reason is some of these boot camps offer you some kind of accreditation after you finish. So people also chase that certificate, if you wish, and to kind of accredit their pursuit of a special of programming language or a framework. So people also, they pursue the materialistic, not only the knowledge out of it, but also the certificate or accreditation. So yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's crazy. It's definitely not cheap for some. Yeah, but for me myself, I don't see myself doing that. First of all, I already have a master's degree in computer science. Not necessarily a practical degree, meaning I didn't study Ruby, for example, or computer science is a more general kind of theoretical and practical.
Yeah.
So I still have to learn like everyone else, and I still have to teach myself like everyone else. But I kind of feel that people are missing out on the most major resource or the most important resource that you can use to teach yourself, and that is first the bliss of the internet, which the internet can answer some of the general questions like what languages should I focus on, and you can see the community kind of driving. You can see the shared knowledge of people discussing a specific, and from that shared collective knowledge, you can kind of have a feel of what is the hot or the buzz in the field. But then the major, I think, source of information is the good old book. You have to get a book. You have to dwell in your cave and just shut down the lights and get your computer and start writing code. Start learning from the very basic. So I think any programmer who doesn't have a bat cave, like Angel says, who doesn't have a bat cave, a place where he can retreat and heal your wounds and you know, start learning the stupid stuff that you don't want to ask anyone about. So every serious programmer should have a bat cave where you have to surround yourself with an environment, books, the internet, friends. Yeah, I find that very, very helpful. So are you self-taught, Jesus, or have you been taught by someone else?
Yes, I am self-taught. I took like 2 years ago took a course, but only for the paper, only for the certification.
Yes.
I didn't go to class. I just went to the exams.
Very cool, very cool. It's like I never was taught by anyone. Nobody kind of sat next to me and told me, okay, this is a for loop, or this is a while loop, or this is how you declare an instance variable, or whatever. Nobody have ever taught me that, not through academia and not through professional life.
Yeah.
It was totally self-taught. I mean, professors and doctors can give you the lead. You know, they can tell you, okay, you can. This is how it's done, and this is where you can find that information. But they will never sit down with you and tell you, okay, this is, and they write it down with you in kind of a pair programming thing. Yeah. Nobody does that in academia. No, or even professional life. Nobody's. I mean, it's you're consuming time from someone else's life, and nobody will sit there and just give you his life. You know. So there are some things you have to go through by yourself.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, and I take pride in that. I like to know that, okay, I've learned this by myself, and those who actually teach me something new, or like, for example, if I ask a question on Slack, or if I ask a question on Stack Overflow, and then somebody just kind of, okay, this is the answer, or this is where you can find the answer, then you can truly feel the value of that answer. You can truly feel you know, the strength of the programmer or the guy who actually posted the answer, and you can kind of gauge where are you right now, what's your level, and you kind of make a mental note, okay, I want to catch up to be in a level where I can post an answer like that, or I can actually think in that level. So yeah.
Yeah, about that, about knowing your level, I think it's really hard because there is many things. It's not only Ruby, it's not only computer science, it's a lot of things. There is networking, there is Linux, there is operating systems in general.
Yes.
There are many things in IT, so it's really hard to say how much.
Yes, that's very true. It's very hard to say, okay, it's just Ruby, but then you have to kind of be familiar with the operating system, and then you have to be familiar with how to install Ruby through, let's say, a Ruby version manager, and then you have to be familiar, like a lot of things are. Ruby is just a component in a bigger picture. So that's very true. You have to know about, and I think this is what makes it hard for people to suddenly decide that they want to come into computers generally, is that it's just a box where I can click some things and things happen. So you have to love it. You have to come from passion. You have to know that a computer has a CPU, and the CPU, like, these are things that everyone. I remember myself going through all these miniature steps to understanding how a compiler takes code, and then compile it into zeros and ones, which are then passed into the CPU, and then these kind of not really in a technical way, but more of an abstract way, just to understand generally how things go on. But coming with a blind, with a blind heart, just stepping into this realm and expecting everything to work. I've seen a video actually a couple of days back where and this goes back to exactly what you just said about operating systems. This girl, and she enrolled into a university, and and then she took a CS class, a computer science class, and then she purchased a Dell laptop, and she didn't know when she purchased the laptop that it had Ubuntu installed. She thought it was Windows. And then when she switched on the machine and started doing like regular Windows stuff, it didn't accept that because it was a Linux Ubuntu. So she eventually dropped the class, and she decided, okay, computer science is not for me, So and it's for a stupid reason, I think. And I just it's like the point of the video is, I think, is don't come blind. At least have some little information, or even if you came in totally blind, at least give it some effort to understand, the basic stuff.
Yeah.
She was trying to connect to the internet, and then she like plugged in the LAN, and okay, she had to install some driver, and that was not the Windows way, so she had to drop the course and stop this. So that was funny to me.
Yeah, many people want to jump directly in Rails. Let's do Rails. But what's this programming thing? While I don't understand. Because a command line is a black screen with letters. It's very scary, no?
Yeah. It's like, I remember myself doing C++ back, I think that was 2001, 2002. And then when you write a C++ program, you go like a void main. So a function can return nothing, and you can declare the return to be void. So for me, void is like emptiness. So I was like, how can it's like I don't know. It's like void. Void sounds very, very cosmic, very space-like. Void. So I was like, oh my God, this is so weird. But then when people explained it and I read about it, it's like, yeah, this is just, it doesn't return anything, so it's void. So there are definitely some jargon in computers that can discourage people generally, like these weird words, but it shouldn't hinder you back. We also have Kevin here. He was the one actually who posed this question.
Yeah, I just had some computer problems, so I had to move computers.
So do you mind telling us like how did you find Ruby? How did you why did you decide to use Ruby in contrast to other programming languages?
Funny enough, like Sandy Metz videos. Have you ever seen her lectures? She turns around and probably pulls out like the Poodle book.
Yeah, man. Exactly, the Poodle book.
Like, it's like watching programming talks. Like, coding's always kind of like interested me, and there's just been like kind of a barrier after a barrier. But every time I like watch her videos, like she can take concepts and really bring it out so that way it all makes sense. That's something that's really difficult, I think, for most people to understand. But it's also, when she talks about Ruby, there's like, cool, there's like 7 different ways to do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And you can to me that felt like great. So I can learn it, and it might not look pretty, it might not run pretty, but I can get it functioning, and then obviously refactor and learn like actually this way and this kind of usage works better than this way.
Yes.
So that's why kind of like Ruby was, my starting point. I've learned a little bit of HTML and CSS, and the one part like I get and understand those and use them, but like designing just a basic looking website doesn't interest me. So like web applications is something that I really want to do. So Ruby looked like it just was an easy one to go with.
Ruby, yeah, I see, but I don't think it's the most easy one. Ruby is kind of the most friendly, I would say.
Yeah, that's a better word of using it's like friendliness with it. Like none of
Yeah.
it's really like, if we break it down, like it's not easy, no matter how you put it. But it seemed like the most forgiving / friendly, and
Yes.
it was easy to pick up and like read what something was without not even knowing probably what the function or class they were doing. I could read it and kind of understand it, so it was very readable.
Uh-huh. And also Jesus mentioned this. Writing code is kind of easier than reading code. So it's easy to express your own logic, but it's harder to understand somebody else's logic.
Yeah.
And it's definitely a plus if you want to really learn. And I keep telling myself that every day, but I don't like reading people's code because I suck at it. But I should do it. I should do it more.
Yeah, I work for a hosting company, so I deal with the hosting technical side. And like I thought it was funny how you bring up that story with the girl buying the laptop and had Ubuntu instead of Windows. Like running anything that kind of like I want to design, like you can't do it in anyone's shared environment. You're gonna have to have like your own VPS.
Yeah.
And then anywhere you get a VPS from, they're like, cool, here it is, enjoy. We'll make sure it's up for you.
Yeah.
But like you're saying for like barriers, like great. Once I figure out how to write it and do it on my computer, I then have to learn how to put it on the server so it functions the way it's supposed to, and all those, whole new set of things to learn.
Yeah.
But like, I guess like one of the parts that I find myself like stuck at is, cool. So I know what a string is. I know some of the functions with the math and everything, but like, I feel like coding is just one of those things that if you don't use it, you'll lose it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of applying what you've learned.
Yeah.
And
So-
it's when you do like small, like I was asking for like small programs, like cool, we're gonna make a calculator or something like that. Like not necessarily step by step, but I'd like something to start.
Uh-huh. Practice not only makes perfect, but it also, kind of engraves that pattern of doing something into your brain. And like I've been programming Python for many, many years. And since I started learning Ruby, which is this May, up to maybe a month ago, I stopped doing Python. And then I came back this month and I found myself, okay, I have to go back to some of my old code to actually understand some of the nuances which I dropped. So forgetting things is a fact in life. It happens. But knowing where to go and find the information again and kind of retrieving that really fast is an important skill that you should have. I personally, what I do if I find, for example, an awesome link to an awesome tutorial explaining this thing or that thing, I'll immediately bookmark it just immediately, and bookmark it under a general name. So I will put it under, for example, Python networking, and then when many days or many months later, when I want to go back to that, I'll just open my bookmark and I'll find it there, and I'll just read that tutorial again, and I'll feel happy about bookmarking it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like I said. Some of my biggest struggles is I'm new to programming just in general. The and it's hard. Like I've subscribed to like Ruby weekly emails, and some of them have cool things to implement, and I'm getting to Git, and I've actually started making myself use Git because there's a public cool. When was the last time I really tried to code and committed stuff? So like you're saying on the book, I got like learned Ruby the hard way, and I just have like a Git repository of like the lessons as I do them, and when I'm done, I commit them.
Yeah.
But it's finding those, being so new into this, like I said, like you were right, easy's not the right word, but actually applying, like finding something to apply it to.
Mm-hmm.
I think most people probably struggle with, like me.
Well, we all struggle. I mean, using a new language or using a new technology is always there is a steep learning curve at the beginning, which everybody has to go through. You have to know how to declare variables. You have to know what variable types are supported by the language so you can declare them. You have to go through, okay, how can I create a loop? So there is a learning curve that you have to go for everyone. Nobody just comes out of like, pop, I know everything. So everybody has to go through this mundane stuff. But the thing is that people kind of pour their focus on, Ruby or Python. It's this awesome programming language which I have to learn, I have to use. But the thing you have to know is that Python or Ruby or C++ or whatever is just a tool in your tool set. What's more important is your logic. There is a famous quote by someone who I fail to remember his name now, and he says, computer science is not about computers and is not a science. It's a vague name because it's true. It's if we had like mechanical, because we kind of attribute computers to these awesome machines that use electricity as 1 and 0s and beeps and beep beep pop pop, we kind of have this feeling about computers that they're electrical. So it's not about the electrical components of a computer, and it's definitely not a science, because a science has to be pure in nature, like math, but then computer was derived from math, derived from logic. So by itself, it's not a pure science. So again, it's not about computers, and it's not about it's not a science. It's more about your logic and how you think about the steps of things and how things can be bundled together, how they can be put together. It's like playing a puzzle. Puzzle is not about math, but it's about how you can put things together. So this is what people should value more than the technical stuff of a language, because languages mostly share this common thing of having the technical infrastructure of describing what an integer is or what a string is. So all programming languages can do that. So of course, Ruby can do it, in a more user-friendly way than, or I would say programmer-friendly way than others. But still, the major focus should be the logic, the steps, how you can organize thoughts in your brain and put components together and build something out of it.
Yeah, one of the most struggling parts when I started getting into this was actually trying to find a language, because Googling like a good language to learn first is probably one of the most Google search terms with anything with programming is where to start. and everyone has their 2 cents on this
Yeah.
language is better for this reason and that reason, and no one uses this anymore, and blah blah blah. Um, it's like that's where I just, I liked some of the things I heard about Ruby, and I was already in Treehouse, and at the time they only really had Ruby, which did what I wanted. So
Hmm.
that's really the reason why I committed to it, and I finally, listened to one of the Code Newbie podcasts I listen to on a regular basis. I one of the guys sat there. He's like, one of the problems with struggling with like learning code is like as we're starting to learn, people like hear like, oh, you're not really coding unless you're doing it on like Linux. So people like derail from learning to code to install Ubuntu on there to code, and they start coding again. And then they find out, oh, you should be using this text editor versus that text editor,
Yeah,
and they just get
yeah.
derailed from
It's,
actually like
yes.
doing the coding.
Yes, that is very true, and that's a very important point. You can easily get derailed by stupid topics. What's your text editor? Oh, I use Vim. I'm better than you. You use Emacs, or oh, I use Visual Studio. You use
Atom.
yeah. Atom. So these see I'm kind of an old school guy, okay, and at my days back like 10, 15 years ago you are considered like if you can code, that means you can open a notepad on Windows or a text note in OS X and just write code. You see? So if you just have a text pad, and you can write code in it, then you're a programmer. It doesn't matter all what it's Linux, Windows, OS X. It doesn't matter because your code can be portable. You can move your code anywhere and it will work.
Yes, especially when you learn Git. It's all over the place. You can move it.
Yeah, Git is a must learn tool. It's a must learn tool. I don't know, like the idea behind code versioning was actually introduced in the 70s. But then programmers were so hardcore by these days, and they thought, meh, I wouldn't. I mean, why would I version my code? I don't need this tool. And then when code bases started to get humongous and huge, and our memories started to fail us, then they were like, oh, maybe we should come back to it. And actually, we started using it. It came, version control came into mainstream probably mid 90s. So there was a 20-year gap where everybody was like, no good, no versioning.
Yeah, and I also think like it's one of those things, kind of like backing up your computer. You don't see value in it until you're into a situation where you need it. And I've tried, for the longest time, I would do Dropbox, and I would just write all my code in a file that was in my Dropbox whenever I'd save. I go to my other computer, Dropbox would have it open, and then my wife or me would, Dropbox getting full. I delete stuff out of it, and somehow that gets deleted, so it's gone.
Uh-huh.
So it's like I'm learning from two different machines. It's always kind of hard to start one and go to the other, and now it's like using that. Once you start like using it, I'm not very, like I said, like I'm very infant stage of learning how to program just in general, but I finally figured out Git. It really didn't take that much energy once I put like a lot of effort behind it,
Uh-huh.
and like that trick alone, some people I talk to who've been coding or programming for a while, they still don't know Git, which I think it's nice that I know a little bit that they don't, and that's something that it's just knowledge gaps that I find with people.
Yeah. So I want to ask Jesus. Jesus, what do you think life would be without Git?
It will be a lot of copies of one project version 1, project version 2, project version 3, project version 1,000,000. And if you want to find something on when something happened, it will be a mess.
Yeah. and code collaboration would be a miserable thing to do. Yeah. But for me, see, I kind of thought about this earlier, and Git can be simplified to 3 phases. There is the beginner, the intermediate, and the advanced. So if you're a beginner, you only need to know 3 commands, 3 Git commands.
Mhm.
Git init, Git add, and Git commit.
Yeah.
These are the 3 ones you need to know. If you're intermediate, you need to have 2 more commands, Git push and Git pull. If you are like the super Git guy, 1 more command, Git rebase, and that's it.
Well, there are more advanced commands, but
Yeah, definitely there are more. Yeah, there's definitely more. But what I'm saying that these are like the bare minimum for you to survive in Git. You don't need to like go and have a course in Git just to, oh, I have to version my code. No, it's just simple commands, and you don't have to memorize them. If anything, git -h help, and boom, everything
I-
comes up.
I think you missed one important one. Hit
Yeah.
branch. Hit branch should
Yeah.
be in the intermediate section, I think.
Yes, Git branch is definitely an important one. And actually, it was Git was done by Linus Torvalds,
Yes, that's correct.
and he made it out of necessity. So he used to use this other versioning system. I forgot what's it called. It's still
SVN?
no,
SVN?
no,
Huh?
another Mercury. I think it's called Mercurial. Mercurial was an open source, and then they decided to commercialize it, and then Linus got pissed, and they called them, and they were like, oops, we had to go commercial. So he decided to build Git, and I think I've listened to his interview, and Git means, GIT is actually an English word which means a lazy man. So yeah, that was a cool background story, I think. And well, let's see. So, like, there isn't much tools that you can like. If you want to code, all you need is a text editor.
Yeah.
And learning Git is definitely a must, and it definitely adds to your arsenal to being a really good programmer. But for those who are starting, I would say just start coding simple programs and then move it up a notch and learn Git. And it wouldn't take you much. I mean, simple commands. If you understand the concept, it's easy.
Well, what do you mean by like simple programs? Like that's kind of what I started off in the Slack chat room is like, cool, like a simple task. And going through, today was, since we're on topic of kind of Git, like I was going through Git and looking through, and there's like some people have like their Ruby lessons from like MIT to download, but no instructions on kind of like how to do those exercises. And it's really kind of like applying the knowledge of when all you really know how to do is like a string, a variable, and a number. Like I can put a bunch of numbers to go to a variable and go through that, and that's it. And moving from there, like that's the hard part, is finding those little easier bridges to cross.
Yes. So let's say, for example, you build a small little app that takes input from user from the command line and prints it out to the standard out command line. So that's one simple, probably 2 or 3 lines of code application. So you write that and you save it somewhere else. Then you get, hey, interested. I want to see how I can, for example, do some network stuff. Let's say I want to download a web page from the internet. Just download the source, the HTML. So you write a small program that uses URL lib, which is a Python. Sorry, we're talking Ruby here.
Yeah.
I'm thinking in multiple languages. So you write a Ruby program that uses a native Ruby library to call a website by name and then retrieve the HTML to your local machine and see. This is probably another 2-3 lines of code. And now you've built these two simple components. Now you can add them to one bigger, still simple app. So how can I get a URL from the user in the command line and then download that page and review it? So you take it step by step by step. Now you can take this further and say, okay, how can I extract an image from this downloaded HTML? Then you start playing with the source of the HTML, string manipulation, which is nothing, it's not magic, it's just a string. So you kind of build it, and your thoughts should follow the same logic of your application. The thing is, when we see an application, we see, okay, it's a web browser. Oh, what's a web browser? It's nothing. It's just they're downloading HTTP and they're rendering it, and that's it. So it's the same thing when you download a source and then printing special stuff or downloading, scrapping an image. So it's a small step by small step by small step to build a final thing.
Yeah, one important thing that many people miss that are starting out is that what you said, that everything is built from components. Everything is built from small pieces, and to make something big, you can't make something big in one step. You have to make the little pieces first, and then you put the components together, and you will have the big thing that you wanted.
Yes, that's very true. It's just a step by step, like a puzzle. You're trying to solve a smaller piece of the puzzle, but by the end, when you solve it entirely, you get this beautiful mosaic or picture that describes the entire pattern. But at the beginning, you have no idea what are you doing, or what are you. It's just a little piece by little piece, and you build on that. And yeah, one more important thing as well is don't reinvent the wheel. And just because you thought about it doesn't mean that somebody else haven't thought about it already and probably built a library for that thing you just thought about. So let's say you want to download something from the internet, download the source, just search Ruby download HTML, and you will probably you'll find native Ruby libraries, you'll find external Ruby libraries that you can code, that you can use to simplify the things you want to do. You want to put your effort in the new things that you want to invent, not on things that are already invented.
Yeah, and I definitely get that, and everything's kind of from a small component land. But it's funny because one of the advice I got from a friend is like, try something that you want to make, and one of them's like, for example, there's a system at work that I use for time cards, and it's horrible, but it has the option to export the data in like rich text. I'm like, oh, it'd be great if it, grabs everyone and kind of did it like this. And I found myself like, great, now I got to sit and learn regular expressions just to do that. Because if I find a way to import, for Ruby to read the file, then I need to do something with the data in the file and how to make that data into a variable. Like, it just turns into complicated quickly.
Maybe it would help. I understand what your concern. Maybe it would help. So before building and getting your hands dirty with an application, whatever the application is, you can turn on to Code Newbie channel, or you can turn on to your friends and ask them, hey, how would you go about doing this or solving this problem? just hear what others are saying, and then sit by yourself and decide, okay, this is the most logical and sound way to go about doing this. So it takes. I know some guys, especially maybe Jesus, will because Jesus is the kind of guy who will just pull up his editor and start coding while you are asking him the question. so he's that kind of programmer, you know. He's multitasking. So and that's an awesome thing to do. For other people, for me myself, I kind of like to think about it, sit down and wonder, and then decide in my brain at least the smallest part, the smallest solution possible, and then starting from there. But I wouldn't pull my text editor at the very beginning, because I might end up hitting a dead end, and it happened a lot actually. It happened a lot when I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna drop this application and do it in some other way. So it's a natural part of learning and coding. But yes, the community, man, take advantage of the community. If you have a problem you want to solve and you're not sure how to go about it, just make it out there. Just put it out there for everyone to share. For example, you just mentioned that you want to parse a rich text file, right?
Mm-hmm.
RTF.
RTF, yeah.
So is it, so thinking logically about it, what is the parsing factor? Like, are the data or information stored row by row? And
I tried looking at it once. I'm trying to see if I have one of them right now to look at, because if I wanted to go look at it now, I'd have to like VPN and break connect. Yeah. But to me, it does, like I can see like kind of some logical sense in it, like where it breaks down, but it's not exactly like, it's not very clean because it's kicking out so much data, which I think is funny that no one actually ever uses. So I'd have to parse it out, like, but there's no like colon separate these or comma separate these, like.
So it's total chaos.
Absolutely, the best way.
So pretty much, see, if a human can parse through that data, then a computer can definitely parse through that data. It's just a matter of ruling out what are the delimiters and what the delimiting conditions. So it should be parsed. I mean, yeah, even random data. We've got patterns out of random data. So there is a way. If there is a will, there is a way.
I will say start parsing, trying to parse just one line or just a small bit of that, and instead of trying to parse the whole file, just pick a small part of the data and see what structure there is, and see if you can identify the different fields. And like mosaic, see how they are separated, and then you can pick the files and put them into a hash or into a class, and then you can do another row, and then you have the item file.
Yes. So you basically what you're saying is impose structure in your data. Try to find order and then parse by that order. You see, the cool thing about programming, that any newbie, I think, and even myself, you should always think of a program as a black box. So this is a black box. Oh, wait, this is a black box, okay? Where actually data is coming in and data is coming out. So at the beginning, your imagination is you're imagining this beautiful black box that can do some magical stuff. And you're passing data in and data is coming out. And the cool thing about programming, and especially in object-oriented programming, is it makes you think about what's coming in and what's going out. Think about what data structure, how the data is structured, and then inside, what are you going to do with that data to give the output. So it makes you, object-oriented programming makes you think. The class, what's a class? A class is just data and methods. So it explains the data, the elements that you want to play with, and the methods. What do you want to do with these elements?
Yeah.
So I like how it's kind of like, all right, so if you don't see any, like if there's obviously no logic visible, let's kind of make our own logic like Jesus was saying, cool, I need this, it's on 5 lines down, and then 3 lines down from that, like to start there.
Do you mind sharing that? I mean, sharing it?
Like I said, if I had like...
Oh, you don't have it?
I don't have it. Like that's what I was looking to find on my computer to see if I had something on here. Because I would love to share it and show, but that's like that's one thing I also think is kind of funny. It's hard just to find random data to practice on to parse. Like, do you guys have any?
Yes, the first, it's easy to find data to parse. Just download any web page on the internet and try to turn it into, a tree of elements. Basically, it is already a tree of elements, but you try to extract them. So, say you have an HTML page, which the top tag is the HTML tag, and then inside you have the head and the body, and then within the body or within the head you have other sub-child elements. So let's say if you want to parse a specific element with a specific ID or the specific class, try to build a string manipulation Ruby program that will extract that element for you. Of course, again, this is reinventing the wheel because it's already there already. You can use a library to do that, or you can simply do that. But just for the sake of, you just ask, how can I find data to parse? Well, it's all over the internet. If you download any page, you can parse out an image of that page. We call it scraping when it's scrapping when it's done with pages.
Yeah.
It's scrapping, but it's still parsing. I mean, it's
There is a site where you can find data sets you can download and for parsing, because there are many public data sets like from governments and stuff like that. I will share the link on Slack so you can see that.
You put it on Slack?
Yeah, on Slack.
Yes.
So you were saying, Jesus, assembler is clearly the best language to get started. So you start at the lowest level possible, where you read zeros and ones, and then you should see a sequence of zeros, like 50 zeros with one, and then 50 other zeros with the second one, and then you should look at that and go like, this while loop is not really good.
But that's not really assembly, that's binary. Assembly, you have to opcode.
Yes. Yes. Assembler, yeah, set and get and what, and there was jump, yes.
Compare, no.
Yes.
Chor.
Yeah, I just assembler. And it's assembler is also not that portable, right? So it definitely depends on your architecture and your CPU brand. So it's the same concept, but it's expressed differently according to different CPUs.
Yeah. And it also changed with 32-bit, 32 bits to 64 bits.
Yeah.
The register names change because in 32 bits you have EAX, EBX, ECX, and on 64 bits it's they start with an R. It's RBX, RAX. Hard to say, but
Yes, I remember. These are registers, and yeah,
yes.
don't remind me, please, Jesus. I want to forget this part of my history
It's
where I
not
had
that
to write.
bad.
I remember also like there were these like I've been taught stuff that absolutely have no sense in today's computer science scene. Assembly being one of them. Another thing is like assembly would never be sensible to use unless like all computers in the world are destroyed and you are left with just one CPU and you're starting to rebuild civilization again. So
I want to talk. I have a comment about that. Assembly is useful in some case. For example, I like it for reverse engineering. If you do reverse engineering, you have to use assembly and understand assembly.
Yes, that's true.
You want to take an executable and you don't have the source code, and you want to see what it does.
Yeah.
The only thing you can do at that point is see the assembly for that. And also, if you want something that is super optimized, like let's say if maybe high frequency trading or something like that, or like embedded device, I think there might still be a bit of assembly.
Yes, that's true. That's true. I agree 100%. Still, there is a use for assembly in today's world, but what my notion was, because we are right now we are sitting like on the top of the stack of development, where we're on the Ruby and Rails level, where assembly makes no sense at all. So
it's layers of abstractions.
Yes, layers of abstractions. Also, like I remember also like also the compiler versus interpreter fight or war, where people say, okay, being a compiled language is way better than being an interpreted language. Like Ruby, for example, is interpreted, Python is interpreted, you know, all these, and they're slower and boom, whatever. But then, I mean, going, it's like, it makes no sense because, you know, yeah, speed is important, but it's not that important in today's age. I mean, maybe 20 years ago, it would have been when we had like little drives of 1.4 megs and whatever, where that was your entire hard disk and your RAM was like I don't know, 1K. That was an issue. But right now, being an interpreted language can be really fast.
Yeah, like Raspberry Pis could even handle, you know, Ruby and Python fine. Like, and that's a $30 computer.
Yeah.
Like, it's when it comes to the battle of like, oh, this one's faster, so it's better kind of a thing. Like, I almost defer back to like my earlier thoughts of like, just pick a language and commit now and find something that, like, try to make headway with that and just use that for now. You know, it's kind of, if you give like a 6-year-old like a tool belt with a bunch of tools in there, like he's not going to know what everything's for, where you teach them, cool, this is how you hammer. I'm going to give you hammer and nails, and that's all they need to know, even though like a power screwdriver could probably get it done faster,
Yeah.
but like you want to start with the basics of some of those.
Yeah. And besides, if you think of it, probably the slowest thing ever on your computer is your web browser. Okay, it's interpreted. Okay, it's first before being interpreted, it's parsed. So there's markup language that's being parsed, HTML, namely HTML. Then it's interpreted through JavaScript and its underlying virtual machine, and then it's compiled. All this is bundled up and compiled through zeros and ones. So my point is, the web browser now being as fast as it is, where you just type in a URL and boom, you've got that page in front of you, is probably the slowest kind of hybrid compiled / interpreted / virtual application that you can have, and it still is really fast.
I was going to say the person's the slowest part of the computer.
Yeah.
At least that's the way in my case.
That's very true. We can't keep up with the...
Thanks, Jesus, by the way, for that link of all the data dumps. I'm downloading apparently Crimes from 2001 to present in Chicago. And it said like 75 megabytes and growing as a CSV.
Okay.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's something to start. Like, easy to, like, obviously they've taken the time and broken the data up, but that's nice to actually, I can start with something like that because I can see the different columns and parse through that versus trying chaos first.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I know there's someone out there who's made something probably that does it already. Like, I was on, like I said, I was on GitHub earlier, and, I saw, one for Ruby DNS. So if my web app wanted to give people like sub domains, like Slack does it, where you pick like your group name and it's like group.slack. Like someone's already made that, and I can probably start implementing it, but it'd be a lot more like A, to learn, and B, it's just a lot to, someone's definitely has already made a lot of wheels out there. There's no point in remaking them at any time. But it's something that I just want to learn how to parse through that data and then do something with it. But
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, doing something with the data, again, is what kind of behavior you want to do. But then I think you're absolutely, you're going on the right path. First, get the data, parse it, then organize it, and then you can think about what you can do. And believe me, once you get the data, you can do numerous things.
Yeah, I saw someone took one of these data sets from Crimes or something like that, and they use Google Maps to plot where things happen. So you could see here this crime happened in this street, this other crime happened there.
And then you can kind of create predictions.
Yeah.
Yes, so this is basically, I've studied this stuff, so this is machine learning, and what you do, you're getting historical data, so you have data for like 20 years past, and you're using history to predict the future.
Yeah.
And that's one really cool application and basically it comes again to what we've been talking, it's pattern recognition. So if you can recognize pattern within the data, then you can predict that it will follow the same pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a really cool endeavor. I mean, if you want to play with data and you want to study data and understand how you can come up with cool things about whether statistical, whether prediction. You can check out. Let me drop that link. It's Kaggle.com. It's an awesome data science competition page. So it's part competition and part learning and tutorial. So basically, it's a ladder-based system where you start from the easiest tutorials and then make it up to like real-life problems that are paid by companies, and they pay generously. I mean, like millions and thousands of millions or whatever. And I've personally done some of these competitions. One of them, I think, is the early one. It's the Titanic competition. So basically, what they give you is a CSV file with data about passengers, and then you parse through the file, and then you apply some machine learning algorithms to predict which passenger survived and which passenger did not. Yeah, and I think it's in one of my GitHub projects. I think I've reached like what, 80? No, not 80, 70 something. Let me see. Oh, GitHub, I've reached 70 something % accuracy.
Did you do that in Ruby or?
No, I did that in Python. I did that in Python. Where is it? Yeah, Kaggle Titanic. I'll drop the link as well. Yeah, I did that in Python, and it's like the project. I have no markdown, so documentation is really poor. But this is the link here, and this is the link here as well. So, if you're fascinated about data, I would suggest doing the Kaggle, checking out Kaggle.com and playing with their. And believe me, you will learn a lot doing this stuff. And there are examples in Python. There are examples in the R language. There are examples in MATLAB. So yeah, check it out. Definitely check it out.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, really cool.
Yeah, the data part, like, it's not like my key point of interest, but at the same time, like, when it comes to simple projects, like, that's the first thing that comes to mind is like I've always been interested in e-commerce and how to get, like, if you had a store and scraping the data to organize it where part number, description, link to image to download and keep, like, and set up a catalog, because my friend had like a local game store. And getting that information is just, it's all there, it's just never organized. So that's every time, like, I hear about it, it's all I think of is like the data, like, organization part of it.
So where do you store the data? In a database?
Right now I store it nowhere. I do nothing with it.
You keep it in flat files.
Yeah, he doesn't own it anymore, but it was something that I was doing of just trying to find some kind of easy organization system, so he either A, had it on his website, or B, had it easy to look up for his employee to order when someone had a request in, because, like, there's just some organizations, like, I just worked in the power sports, like, motorcycle industry, and their technology is, it's funny. It's sad but funny how behind they are, where everything's still paper catalogs. Cause
I can believe you, because I actually had the same problem. So I worked in Saudi Aramco, which is the biggest oil company in the world. And I don't know if I should say this online, but hey, I don't care anymore. I don't work there. But anyway, it's the biggest company in the world in terms of everything. It's this huge dinosaur company, and it basically it ships oil to the world. And then when I went there, I was like, yeah, this is like a sci-fi company that I'm joining, and I'm like hoping for the best. And I'm like, yeah, I want to learn their technology, and I want to see what kind of software they're writing and using and whatever. And on my first day, man, when I arrived there, I found these like 40, 50, 60-year-old engineers sitting on their Excel sheets.
Wow.
And just organizing data on columns, and I was like, okay, I thought maybe, okay, I was trying to be polite, and I thought maybe they are organizing it after they have taken it from somewhere, so they're just it's a presentation thing. But then day after day, I found out that no, this was the presentation, this was the data store, this was everything. So I understand how the industry is not that sophisticated, and sometimes they're very primitive.
Which is funny because they do sites like this where all the data is organized, and it has to be organized to put stuff up there like that. But anyone like on a dealer level, even their parts guys, like don't have access to any of like the PDF version of this, or well, they have a PDF version, but if you needed a specific part, like they still wasn't a very efficient way to find things to order for customers, which just made me scratch my head the entire time of, when you do CRM systems, when you make a quote for, I used to, huge in motorcycles, and when you buy handlebars for the bike, like I put ape hangers on mine, and it wasn't just buying the metal bars and some hand grips. It's a whole new wiring connection, hydraulic cable, brake cables, and it's to make a quote for that for a customer, it took a rep about 20 minutes. And
yeah, I see.
There was no way for them to organize that, and oh, okay, I want to get it, but we're doing this instead, so the wires have to be so much longer, and they'd have to re-look stuff up. There's no easy way of getting to it.
Yeah, I see.
So, see, like I said,
yeah.
not reinventing, but yeah.
Jesus, are you there?
Yes.
So how would you solve this problem, Jesus?
I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah. So what he's saying is they have a yeah.
I put a link in there that goes to an actual list of parts. Like how would you scrape data from this site?
Mm-hmm.
So is this site owned by you guys?
No.
Ah, okay. So it's a third party. So you guys want to get data from this site, and well, there are many ways to do this, either through business relations or through IT or programming. The first and easiest way, and it could cost you money, is to go to them, shake hands, and say, hey, do you guys have an API? If they say no, then you say, okay, hey guys, do you mind sharing your data with us? And if they still say no, then you can come back to your programming ways and scrape their website. But scraping website for this kind of relational data where like you said, a bar is related to the wiring behind the bar, is related to many other components of the system. It's I'm not saying it's not doable, but it's difficult to kind of rebuild that relationship if you don't have that relationship already, in your database, or it's kind of hard to blindly build that relationship.
Well, yeah, like I get that part, and like if you go through and click through like the handlebar section, for example, like none of it goes into any of the wiring. It's just the handlebar itself. Like it's not, their system isn't even set like that relational to each other.
Uh-huh.
And it's if you click on them, so if you go to like handlebars and just click on like a set of bars down, they do have like lists on each page will have a part number.
I'm actually looking for the handlebar. What is the handlebar? I see hardware, chemicals, electrical, engine. Let's
all
let's
right.
let's check the engine because engine
All
is
right,
pretty bit
yeah.
complicated, I guess.
Let's
So
go to the
yeah,
engines. See, now I gotta find engines on here.
yeah.
Fuel air.
So
There it is. I see engine. Okay, so I'm in the engine section as well. And if you click on anything like the first item, the 107 big bore kit,
107 big bore. Wait, the
I
first item on engines.
yeah. What do you see?
Okay, I see the 124-inch hot setup kit for use with stock or SNS. I don't know, maybe I I just clicked on the wait, let me see if yeah, engine. So is it showing it differently because I'm in a different region?
Um, maybe. But if you click on the engine, like if you click on that part, for example,
Uh-huh.
you have the picture on the right with like there's obviously like two pictures, like one or more pictures to go through.
Yeah.
On the left-hand side, kind of gives some descriptions,
Yes.
and down towards the bottom gives you a part number,
Yeah.
description again, and then
Yes.
suggested price.
Yes.
Like so, the data's there,
Uh-huh. You can
but
definitely scrape this. Yeah, you can definitely scrape this and store it somewhere locally for your own use.
what would be so if I like I guess for one, in Ruby, like what I don't know how to phrase it. So
Let me
there's the
share.
data. Let's start
Yeah.
there.
I want to share this on my screen just for everyone to
Okay,
see as well,
please.
because you know it's kind of vague when we're talking about it and nobody actually sees it. So let me, yeah, this one. Okay, so I'm sharing now. Okay, you guys should see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, let me boom, 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 boom. Then let me get that link. What is that link? Yeah, this is the link. Wait, where is it? This one? No, this one, yeah. So copy, paste it. Nice. Oops, where is it? I just pasted the link. It's here. Yeah, okay. So this is what I'm looking at. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm clicking on engine, this one.
Mm-hmm.
Boom. Then I'm getting to this one, the first one.
Yep.
So I'm clicking that. And then what you are saying is you want to scrap this information, given that you know the item,
Mm-hmm.
and you can actually scrap the price down here and the
Yes.
description. Yeah, totally doable.
Yeah.
But then this is, yeah, it's totally doable. But if this item is related to some other item and that other item is related to some other item, then building a relation between these to build some final thing can be maybe a little bit
Daunting.
it's if you have a rule that you want to follow to build this relation, it's okay. But if you don't have the relationship, if you don't
Mm-hmm.
know what you're, I mean, because the site definitely shows this item all by itself, right?
Yeah.
It does not link to any other item.
Correct.
So how would you build a relationship of this this item, this component to some other item?
Well, not everything's going to have like a significant item to go to, but they're going to all have like different information that so for to put them in this like a CRM to link them over time and eventually like build those connections, it wouldn't be
Mhm.
done overnight. Like unfortunately that part will have to be done by hand. Like, there's just no major information out there that has them all connected together.
Yeah.
But this would be like a kit that you would like. This one you can set. If the picture shows you a bunch of parts, like this one necessarily wouldn't have a lot of other things that it
Uh-huh.
would connect to.
Okay, so let's say we're in a perfect world and everything is just optimal and life is beautiful and whatever. So let's say you scrape the hell out of this website and you've created your relational model and you've linked products in the way you see it fit and everything is good, and then the next day they just updated their website. What would happen then?
You'd almost like you'd probably have to. The way I'd see it is you'd have to rescrape it, and before importing it, like everything has a unique part number. Like, does this part number exist? Yes or no? If no, do nothing. If yes, then put it in. Like,
Uh-huh.
add that information.
Yeah, I see. So you
Yeah.
scrape the website every day at a predetermined time, and then keep adding to your.
Well, you'd scrape it like they only update this site probably once every 6 months.
Well, it
They don't
doesn't.
really,
Yeah, it
but
doesn't
it's
really
like,
matter when,
yeah,
but it does. It
but
does matter. Yeah.
you'd still only have to scrape it once and store the data, and whether a spreadsheet to start with or MySQL, and then use the data use the data there, and then when the site gets updated, to then rescrape it again.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. So every part has a number, and this is the number, right?
Mm-hmm. And I tried going through like the elements to take a look at it, and like, okay, this is this element, but
Yeah. So you can contact them and ask them if they have an API. That
they
would make
don't.
things. That would make things really. I mean, up to date, and you don't have to keep scraping the website. Because when I think about scraping, I don't think about real-time data or data change every time I run my application, but I kind of think like I want this information that's I don't want to say that the information doesn't change, but I want to say that it doesn't change now for me. So I want to scrape it once, use that information, and then dump it.
Yeah.
So that's
Like,
what when I scrap or scrape, I do that for this thing.
yes.
But I'm not saying it's not doable. It's totally doable. I mean, yeah. So how can I? Yeah, okay. Other forms of data would be would be talking to an API. So let's say I'm currently working on a simple application where I'm calling a weather API and getting an API response and then parsing the response and then showing the output to the user. Not really complicated, straightforward, simple, but still it's again that box where data comes in, play with the data, and then data comes out. So try also to maybe play with different data sources, not necessarily scrapping website, but maybe calling APIs pushing data back to you.
Mm-hmm.
That's also essential. I think any programmer should know how to deal with JSON and responses and.
Yeah. I just thought it was funny because I was clicking through it. I opened it up in my Firefox because Safari doesn't really have a. I use Safari on my laptop because it uses the least amount of battery.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a program. Have you guys ever heard of Wappalyzer?
Wappalyzer?
Yes.
No.
Wappalyzer.
Wapplaizer. Wappleizer.
Yeah.
No,
It,
why? Okay, Wappleizer. Yeah.
it's really,
Uh,
when you go to websites, it tells you what they're built with. Like, that's always been my curiosity with it, is like, this one's a WordPress site. So I just kind of scratch my head like, oh,
yeah, I
because I'm
see.
looking at the SQL and the SQL on the, when I look at the URL,
Oh, this is cool.
it's
Can I search? Can I, for example, provide a URL and it will tell me which technologies is it built with?
when you go to it, yeah, it shows in the browser. So like I said, I work for a hosting company.
Oh, okay. So I
Yeah,
have to
I
install.
have a lot of yeah, you install it into either Chrome or Firefox,
Mhm.
and when you go to the site, it'll actually it'll tell you what the site's built in. It's pretty good at guessing. It's not 100%, but they use the
Mhm.
data so that way if you wanted to like market to like if you made a plugin for like Magento or something, you can go to Wapplizer and pay them like $30,000 for a list of 500,000 sites
Uh-huh.
made with Magento that you can then reach out to and try to lead. I guess it's the angle they're going for.
Yeah. So it's really sneaky why they don't put a search box for you to just enter URL and then it shows you. You have to install something.
I think Built With will let you
Built
do it.
with.
Builtwith.com, I think it's called.
Wait, let me copy this and then drop it at the.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Built With will let you type in a website and they'll tell you what it's built with. They have
Built
a
with.
plugin as well.
Okay, let me see. I have a couple of products that are live right now. So yeah, let me see. Hmm. So I just drop my URL here.
Hmm.
Let me see. Okay, so oh yes, 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 yes. Wow, really nice. So it identified the web server, Nginx, the framework, Ruby on Rails. Yeah, I'm happy that it's only this. Oh, and the operating system, Ubuntu.
Sometimes it gets into pretty good detail of what it's
Yeah.
really nice.
Mhm.
Whenever I look at sites and like I said, when we work at a hosting company, sometimes we deal with people who are not the builder but the owner,
But
and when
this
you ask
is
what
this
site it, it
if you
helps.
yeah, if you think of it, this is also vulnerability issues. I don't want this information to be available for anyone to see. I don't want anyone to know that my web server is Nginx version 1.4 because then they can know what vulnerabilities Nginx has for the 1.4 version.
Hmm.
No, absolutely. But I always tell people like that is that's something that you're going to like when they go into the point of like, oh, this is running Apache, blah blah blah. Like it's not 100%. Like obviously, it's a direction to go with if you want to look for vulnerabilities, but
Yeah.
I just saw that and I'm like, oh, well, maybe if I just do a wget and they have a product equals, like maybe if I just did that where, 1 to like 10 million, but I'll probably get blocked.
Hmm.
But even though I'm typing in some random numbers and product equals, um, I'm getting nothing. No data feed.
This is some cool
So,
stuff.
yeah, not to get too far off topic, but yeah.
So, what are you guys planning, or what are you currently doing? Like, are you part of a personal? Are you doing some personal projects right now? Are you working? And I'm talking Ruby, in case you guys were doing something else.
I'm just trying to learn it and try to find a project to do. Like,
finding a project should be the easiest part of knowing what to do. Finding the project, believe me, is not that difficult. If just sit down, actually, it's you should ask yourself if there is something you want automated. Like I don't know, like like we know we've discussed now that data is not an issue. Data is always there, and
Yeah.
Jesus shared some links. We've shared some links, so the data is there. Now maybe you should ponder a little bit and think, okay, what can I do with this data?
Yeah.
So
I think
yeah.
I agree with that. It's kind of like sitting there and trying to find what's, now that this kind of enlightened this way, like kind of drawing out a plan of action and, using like strings, for example, to know how the data needs to be formatted when it comes in and mess with that and so forth and so on.
See, at least you go through the exercise of getting the data and parsing through the data. Even if you don't know what you will eventually do with the data, just go through, go through the motion of, okay, hey, okay, the data is coming in, and let's organize it and save it into memory, or just keep it in variables inside my code. And then you can later on decide, okay, now I've got the data, what can I do with it? What about you, Jesus? I know you're working on some deep cover, undercover, dark stuff in your bat, Jesus cave.
Dark stuff? No, I don't think so. Like, I've been working on two tutorials. One on curve metrics that tells you go to tell if your curve quality with metrics like complexity, you have many conditionals and things like that. And I have another that it's about the time, how to do time and dates in Ruby. So it turns out there is three classes for managing time in Ruby. There is the time class, which is in the core of Ruby. You don't need to do a require. And with time you have both the date and the time, and it internally is stored in seconds. And you can format. There is different types of formatting you can do. You can pair dates. You can ask if a date is Monday. You can ask if it's Sunday, or you can ask what year it is.
Oh,
You
wow,
can ask.
cool.
You can ask for the time zone, and you can also do arithmetic. So you can say time that now plus 10, and that means plus the current time plus 10 seconds.
I see. So this is a library you're building to
No,
manipulate time.
It's the built-in in Ruby.
Okay, okay.
I'm writing a tutorial, an article,
Yes, yes.
so people can learn how to use it.
I think there is date time in Ruby is very, very cool. You can say things like 10 dot days dot from now, right?
Yes, but that Rails. That's Rails only. That's the problem. I'm doing only Ruby, and at the end I explain what Rails adds.
Yes, I see. I see. So what does Rails add since you're at it?
Yes, the thing you said, it is the dice method. For example, in Rails you can say 3 dice, or you can say 5 dice ago,
Yes.
or 3 months ago. So these are methods on the fixed num class that are added with the active support,
Yes.
and which is part of Rails.
Yes. Yes.
But if you do use Ruby before Rails, you don't have those.
Yes.
These methods are not there. So you have to use classes like the time class, the date class, or the date time class.
You see, I love Rails and I hate Rails at the same time.
Yes.
I love Rails because it makes it easy to build an application really fast, rapidly as a prototype. That's really cool. But I hate it as well because I find myself spending my entire time just putting components together without actually writing logic or yeah. I mean, all the code I do is just to glue things together, but not to actually write some logic.
Yeah, I have the same problem with Rails. I like that you can do a simple website very fast with, you can add login and users with device
Yeah.
and things like that, or pagination with Kaminari, Hem. You can do many things very fast, but it doesn't feel like you're really programming. You're just, like you say, putting things together. You're not really programming. That's a problem I have with Rails.
And that's why I missed Python somehow, because Python I did some I mean, yeah, Python can definitely be also component gluing, but you do end up writing a lot of code. And Ruby as well. Ruby without the Rails, you can
Yeah.
definitely write code and write logic.
Yeah.
So yeah, cool stuff. Good times, good times.
Well, it's been fun, guys, but I got to cut out around now. So hope to do this again next Monday.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye. So I think we've had some great discussion, and thanks for sharing the links, Jesus.
Yeah, no problem.
And I look forward to next Ruby Monday. And I'm giving a shout out to Angel, Angel Jose, and hopefully next he will make it next Ruby Monday. So thank you everyone. Thank you Jesus. Thank you Kevin. Thank you Thien. And I'll see you soon. And to all the viewers, peace.